It's my birthday today, guys. Happy birthday to me. Gosh, I'm so excited. It's been a wonderful year, a year filled with lots of lessons. And in today's video, I'll be sharing with you two unconventional things I did this year that I'm so glad I did, and it made me a better person. But before I continue, if you're new to my channel, you're welcome. You guys can tell I'm so excited, right? Yes, if you're new to this channel, you're welcome. On this channel, I share how we can heal wholly from life's painful experiences, be it grief, pain, hurts, whilst developing a closer relationship with God in the midst of it all. So if you're new here, please subscribe and I'll be getting right into today's video. A couple of days back, I was just ruminating on how this past year had been for me, and I was thinking through a lot of things. Two of these points I want to share with you guys stood out for me, and their backstories to it. You might be thinking, what's so important about them? But when you hear these stories, you will understand why. The first one being that I got bolder about sharing the gospel with others. And I also embarked on an international mission trip. Stay with me, guys. Let me gist you why this is so important. Many people usually say that the last words of a person before they die are the most important, right? You know, where they gather their children and their loved ones and then they give them their final words, you know, admonishing them, telling them important things. But in my case, when my parents passed, I never got to have those final words with them. I mean, with my dad, you know, we never had our goodbyes. We never talked about it because it's happened very suddenly, and you know, we never had those final words. But looking back in retrospect, our last conversation was actually very interesting, and I see the hand of God in all of that. Maybe I would do a video on the last conversation I had with my dad, because that's a different story entirely. With my mom, you know, she was sick, but we never had that conversation because we believed God strongly for our healing. You know, my mom will always say, the God that created heaven and earth, is it tiny me that he cannot heal? And so we never had those final words of, oh, Toyosi, what if I don't make it? This is what you're supposed to do. This is no. Till the very end, till she drew her last breath, we still believed God for our healing. And so both of my parents passing were a huge shock to me. I never was prepared for their deaths. A couple of months after my mom passed, or let me say like a year after my mom passed, I had a dream. And in that dream, my mommy was preparing to go somewhere, and she was being dressed up in white by her sister. It was like her sister was preparing her to go to where she wanted to go to. And then she tells me, Toyosi, I'm about going. And so I give her a tight hug. I hug her so tightly. And we were like that for some minutes, until I observed that water started coming out of her body. It was like intense sweat, like water was really coming out of her body. And when she observed that, she, you know, let go of my hold on her, and then she hands me a tiny booklet without saying a word. I know that booklet because we used that booklet for evangelism, my mom and I, while she was still alive. Every Sunday, or don't let me say every Sunday because it wasn't every Sunday, every other Sunday, we would go on evangelism together after church. And in our estate, we'll use that. I even have that booklet here. Let me show you. So here's the booklet. I went to look for it after that dream, right? This is the booklet. And in that dream, she hands me that booklet, and all of a sudden, a white limousine appears. She enters the limousine, and I wake up from that dream. There and then, I understood that God was giving me, first of all, a window for me to say goodbye. And it was giving me an opportunity to hear my mommy's last words. That although I did not, you know, get them physically, it was just like a small window to get what my mommy's last words would have been to me. My mommy's final words would have been to me before she passed. And I just knew that it meant that I needed to continue on that journey of missions and evangelism. While my mommy was here on earth, she was sold out to missions and evangelism. That was a service unit in church. You know, they would always go about preaching to people, going to brothels, going to hotels, telling people about Jesus. My dad and my mom were really about missions. You know, they would give to missionaries. Even while my mom was on her sick bed, right, she would still send money out of her salary to mission fields. And so that was the kind of person she was. She handing over this booklet to me was symbolic of, you know what, Toyosi, you know Jesus. we've done this together. Now I want you to continue. Like, you know Jesus, continue to make him known. And I began to think and wonder, why would my mom's last words to me be this, right? Continue with missions and evangelism, although she didn't say it categorically, but her handing this booklet to me was her telling me to do so. Her last words to me were not, oh, Toyosi, I kept some money in this place, or there are some properties in this place, or do this or do that. Her final words, or that which she was passing over to me, was a legacy of faith, a legacy of missions, like continue to preach the gospel. And I find it so similar to Jesus's final words here on earth before he ascended to heaven. You know, he told his disciples that go you into all the world and preach the gospel, make disciples of all nations, you know, baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Teach them to observe all that I have taught you. So those were Jesus's final words. And then this coming back to me again in that dream, I knew that my mom was handing over something that was beyond this earthly realm to me. She didn't want me to be concerned about, you know, the things of this world, so much so that I forget the things of eternity. And along the years, you know, with grieving and trying to move on with life, I forgot that. But this particular year, I was so mindful of that. I grew bolder with preaching the gospel. Anytime I had the opportunity to enter public transport, especially if it was a far journey, I would ensure that I preached the gospel. There was just this boldness. I thank God for the church I even attend, because they are so big on evangelism, right? And we were taught the gospel. So one thing that I'm just really glad about was I was all about that this past year. In fact, there was an occasion where I was in this public bus, and there was one of these my grandmas that was with me in that bus. And I just did my thing. I preached the gospel. I didn't even know that it challenged her until I heard from other people that, oh, Toyosi was preaching gospel, and people even, you know, responded and all. And I was so happy that it challenged her too, because really, this is our purpose here on earth, to know Christ and to make him known in any capacity we find ourselves. I'm so even happy that I went on that international mission trip. I was the youngest among the team, but I didn't mind, because I was doing something that I know would make God happy, would make my parents happy. They've handed over that legacy to me, and I was taking it up more than ever before this year. So I'm throwing this challenge to you, right? If these were Jesus's final words to his disciples, and by extension, we as believers, right? What have you done about the gospel? Do you tell other people? Do you take out time to tell your loved ones that you know are not saved? Do you even encourage people about Christ, right? This is me just telling you to do so if you haven't. We're going towards the end of the year, and many people will start taking stock of how the year has been. Even as we do that with our secular lives, let's do that with the things that are of eternal cost. Tell people about Jesus, and not just telling people about Jesus. Give towards this cause. Let souls be won to God's kingdom on your account, right? Like for us, every December, we go to different places in, you know, Nigeria, unreached areas. We travel for Christmas, and we spend Christmas with these people. You know, we tell them about Christ, we celebrate with them, give them welfare materials, carry out free surgeries for them, and, you know, basically spread the love of Jesus, telling them what he came to do many years back. So we usually give to this cause. Please do so if you don't. The second thing that I'm so glad I did this year is that I'm glad I obeyed God in opening this YouTube channel that I am on right now. Stay with me, right? Let me give you the backstory to it. So with this somewhat unique situation of my experiences, you know, as an only child, losing my dad and then losing my mom, and just being in that situation of grief and trying to navigate life in my relationship with God, trying to move on as someone who has lost loved ones, I knew that God was going to birth purpose out of the pain, but I did not know how. So I'd been praying to God even as I grew in my relationship with him again, because when it happened, when my mom passed, I told God I had lots of questions for him. My faith was in shambles, and it was literally me and God building our relationship again. And so when God told me, I think it was December 31st, 2023, at our crossover service, I remember where I stood, and God said, you're going to open a YouTube channel, and you're going to share how people can heal from, you know, life's painful experiences and how they can develop a closer walk and a more intimate relationship with me. I was quite skeptical because normally I'm a private person. I will really not put my experiences on social media, no. But if this was God speaking, I decided to do it afraid and just learn how YouTube works, just record videos as God gave me utterance and just share my experiences, share the things it lays in my heart to share. And I can tell you that this year, when I started in March up till now, I've received many, testimonies. One of which was about 2 weeks ago. This was the day of my dad's remembrance, and I was feeling pretty low. But something happened. One of my friends from school, from way back, reaches out to me and sends me a message. Prior to that time, I had sent her a message in the morning. I just saw something on Instagram and I just forwarded to her. Not like we talk normally. We've not even had a full-blown conversation since we finished from school many years back. But I just get a voice note from her and I'm like, okay, what is she talking about? I decided to listen and I was wowed. So apparently, immediately my message to her dropped that morning. Someone reached out to her, and this person was in the exact same situation I had been in a few years ago. She was an only child like me. Her dad had passed, and her mom had also passed, and she was in a very low place. My friend goes on to say that she just tried her best to see how she could encourage her. But as she saw my message, she remembered, oh, Toyosi has been in this kind of situation. And immediately she forwards my YouTube channel to her that had videos. And I was just amazed at how God works. And then I got thinking, what if I had not obeyed God when He asked me to do this? I realized that many people would be in need of all the things He would have me share on this channel, all the ones I've shared in the past, and even the ones I will still share. And it just got me to a point where I said, you know what, Toyosi, we just have to trust God and obey Him regardless. We might not have all the details, we might not understand, we might not be able to fully comprehend, but let's just trust God and obey His instructions. And so these two major things stood out for me this past year. I'm so glad I continued in the legacy of faith, in preaching the gospel, developing boldness to do so. And I'm so glad I obey God in opening this YouTube channel to be a source of blessing to as many that will be in need of it. And so I'm throwing it out to you. What are the things God has laid in your heart? What are the things He has instructed you to do that you haven't done anything about? Remember, lives might be tied to your obedience. So what would you do about it? It's still my birthday, so please pray for me. In this new year, I want to embrace all that God has for me. I want to obey His instructions fully. And I can't wait to see what the next year holds. Please pray for me. Drop your wishes in the comment section. I want to read all of them. Until next time, see you in my next video. Bye.